Hi, welcome to Cliterally Speaking the Podcast. I'm Michelle Doherty.
And I'm Emily Lane.
We are BFFs dedicated to bringing you conversations between girlfriends over a bottle of wine.
Oh, I am so excited about the wine part.
Oh, me too. So pull up a chair, grab your glass,
and let's get talking.
Oh, Emily.
Uh-oh.
I cannot believe that we have made it to the final episode of our first season.
Our season finale.
Our season 1, episode 25.
Yay!
I mean,
that.
that's like
cheers right away on that one. And we need to cheers our guest, even though we haven't quite introduced
her yet.
How awesome
cheers.
she is!
I think we should commend ourselves on completing a season.
I know, and cheers
we
to
intend
Sam
to be
over
on
there
air for years, eons.
Oh, very true.
For forever and a day.
Mm-hmm.
But we
Get
did.
ready.
We did, yeah. Our listeners are so excited about that. They're like, I'm going to be 95 and listening to Michelle in the nursing home and Emily talk about all those wines they used to drink.
Yeah.
They wish they could, but they're on medication now.
I think that means you should drink even more wine, quite frankly.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that. I think if you're in the nursing home, you should be allowed to drink whatever you want.
Absolutely.
Who cares?
Yes.
But I'm super proud of us, and I'm excited about the wine we're drinking tonight. I'm excited about our guest who is a good friend of ours and also
kind of responsible for this
and saved us because our original guest bailed last night.
That's right.
And we were like text messaging, oh my God, hey Jacqui, are you busy tomorrow? You want to drink wine with us on our podcast?
Yeah.
And it took like 4 or 5 arm twistings, and she finally agreed. She said, I would love to.
Which, if you think about it, this being our season finale, it makes perfect sense that this amazing woman who hosts these incredibly inspired parties that ultimately brought us together.
Well, yes. It was a catalyst to cement our burgeoning friendship.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Just, it makes perfect sense that here we are.
And I know our listeners they're on the edge of their seats, and they're trying to
who is this person?
Who is this person they have on the show tonight?
Yes. So please, who is this person, Michelle?
Behind door number 1.
A goat.
And behind door number 2.
A car.
And finally, behind door number 3 is our dear friend, Jacqui Segura. And the crowd goes wild. Sam, did you roll the audio on that?
The crowd cheer. Nice.
Thanks. Yeah, we're really excited about our season. But anyway, Jacqui Segura is a friend of ours who, hosts this wonderful party. But I met Jacqui through another wonderful party.
I'm noticing a theme here
that we attend, and I've always found her to be engaging, funny, phenomenal photographer. Always has a great eye, and then at the gin and croquet party that we would go to several times, and then when she started inviting me to her 12th night parties, I was like, holy cow, there's so much more to Jacqui than just all those amazing things that I thought of at the gin and croquet.
I'm curious, at gin and croquet, were you wearing a costume then as well?
Yes. Wow. I honestly. I was going to say, we've met at a birthday party, and that wasn't costume, but it also was costume.
Oh, Matt's 50th?
Yeah, because we had to come dressed in 70s.
It was
for that.
the roast.
So honestly, I don't know.
Is this our first time socializing in real clothes?
No, I'm in a costume still. I'm still in a costume.
I'm always in a costume.
Oh, yeah, I'm in a costume.
It's a different theme today.
It's
podcast guest.
Yes. It's slimming black.
It's actually like you've got the Shock City Studio colors going on. So you came prepared.
I did research.
Yeah, you did
It's like a job interview, just appropriately.
I don't want to stand out. I want to compliment everything around me. So that's the colors I've chosen.
Yes, because you never stand out in a bright yellow moto jacket, right? That's subtle.
Oh, well, I mean.
But you rock it.
Yeah.
I just think the fact that you and Emily can wear those types of jackets and clothes and nobody thinks anything differently. I find that if I were to walk around in that jacket, they'd be like, oh, that's cute.
No, it's all about believing it.
You just
keep
trying.
That's so funny. I was getting, I don't do a ton of makeup, but I was putting on lipstick, and I'm like, is this the appropriate lipstick color for my age? And I hate it when we ask ourselves those kind of questions, like, who said what's appropriate for what age? I'm just, I want this one.
I'm a firm believer. So many times people will say, oh, I love what you're wearing, but I could never wear it, and I just really believe it. If it feels like you, it's going to look like you, So you just got to go for it. If you enjoy it, wear it.
So much. I agree.
Own it.
And I own those yoga pants and extra large sweatshirt. I mean, I own it.
Oh.
And I'm happy in it. And you even think I'm going to do anything else.
You own some fabulous things.
I do.
Yes.
But I do want to share a funny story about my yoga pants and sweatshirt that I love. And it's got my name on it, Doherty, like the Celtic legend or whatever. And my son and I were doing a lot of painting last year. And I was painting this, the basement, like the exterior wall in the basement, dry locking, getting it nice and nice color. And I had forgotten that I had painted the lower portion of it. And I went to go reach for the upper portion, and I leaned against the wall. And the sweatshirt, the yoga pants, the side, it was all imprinted with the paint. And I just started laughing right then in the basement. I'm like, look, William, look what your mom did. Because
did you just go ahead and then roll your entire body around on the paint?
No, I didn't think that I
turn it into the
moved
look
as quick away from the paint as I could when I realized what I was doing, and then I just laughed. And now, when you see me in that sweatshirt and those yoga pants, be like, oh,
I
know why.
That.
She was painting in those.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how I roll. I have
you literally roll. You roll against.
I like to carry things that are memorable with me at all times. I can look down and be like, oh yeah, that's living room. 2007.
Right.
Yeah,
yes.
right there.
You can see the paint color from that day. You're like, boy, what was I thinking?
Yeah. I'm so glad I repainted it over here on my right side with, living room 2014. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I hold on to clothes, obviously. You guys just learned that.
Oh, I'm a clothes hoarder for sure. I think, Jacqui, you're a bit of a clothes hoarder as well, right?
I'm definitely a costume hoarder.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a walk down memory lane when I go downstairs, and I'm like, oh, I bought this for gin and croquet that year, or we started participating in a Mardi Gras crew 16 years ago now, and have done one of the parade floats. With the exception of 2 years, every year since then.
Wow.
And
You're in St. Louis, or
the St. Louis, the St. Louis. So it's coming up.
What's the name of your crew?
Crew to Carouse.
Oh, interesting. What's your focus? Do you have a theme?
Yeah, we all lived in the same neighborhood when we first moved to St. Louis. So down near the water tower at Grand and Russell. So it's that kind of fun Compton Hill crowd, and so it was just I don't actually know. I think they liked just the alliteration more than anything else. Yeah, and the fact that we maybe tested everybody's hot tubs and pools, but that's a second story that came long after.
Do you find that you've been doing it now for 16 years, that crew to carouse 16 years ago meant a whole different thing than how it is now?
Yeah, right now we're like...
crew to carouse after my nap.
We're like, remember when we used to go through 3 kegs? That was fun. Or 200 Jell-O shots? That's cute. Now we're like coffee and donuts, and that's it.
Just put a splash of Bailey's and I'll be fine.
We're fine.
Yeah.
Yes, it has changed tremendously. And we're like, but that's weird because we're not any older. So that's
the same group of people. What's going on with that?
I was guessing that it was a more sophisticated approach. You're like, oh, now we're going to do our absinthe instead of the keg. Or now we're going to do the champagne.
So I am not a beer drinker, which shouldn't surprise you at all. And there are people who do bring mimosas because... It's morning, so what else would you drink? But I have always done kind of a take on Viennese coffee, where I take a bottle of Godiva chocolate liqueur.
Oh, yes.
And then for a long time, it was a bottle of Hot Damn, the cinnamon liqueur.
Remember when we used to do that?
And then you put that in with your, the big bladder of coffee you get at Breadco or whatever. Yeah. So 2 bottles and 1 bladder of coffee makes and then a quarter of half and half, and you have got the perfect warm.
That sounds
good morning
good.
pick me up.
Mardi Gras
That
parade
sounds really
drink.
good.
Yes. And on years where you're just freezing, I'm like, I'm good. No, you drink your cold beer. I've got like hot coffee and
That's
I am
perfect.
fine.
And I'll be wide awake.
You know, that's
I
that's
love
how we
it.
stoke aroused. We need that much caffeine.
Have either of you ever visited the Boone holiday Christmas tour that they do out at the Daniel Boone Historical?
I have not.
Oh my God, it is amazing. So it's the first 2 weekends in December, and there's a whole little village that's, the Daniel Boone Village. It's historical. They have the schoolhouse.
Is this in St. Charles County?
It is.
Okay, for our listeners that aren't in St. Louis.
Mhm. And so they have the schoolhouse and the general store and various homes. And so this village has several large bonfires set up. And then, all the fireplaces are lit up. And you tour from one building to another. And then each building has an actor acting as though they are from that time, dressed in that time. And they're telling you about, the holiday season and how the village was settled, and it's fascinating. I went a couple of years ago with some friends, and very wisely we came outfitted with our own flasks. And my friend was so amazing. She actually brought the flask for each person. It was like a surprise. Like, Emily, here's your flask. Ken, here's yours. And everybody, she thought about what they would like to drink the most during that time. They were
customized
yes.
flasks.
So I was given a flask at that time with vodka and like a lavender syrup.
Wow.
Delicious. Ken was given some sort of brandy, I think. Somebody else was given mezcal. Like, everybody had their own little flask. And we just went, house to house hopping, and it was so cold.
And
it was
sipping.
like 10 degrees, Here we are. We're like, oh, we're just fine. We do not care that it's 10 degrees outside. There's bonfires.
We're
we have
warm
our
on the
flask.
inside.
We have our liquid blanket with us.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend that approach. And I highly recommend going to try that out sometime. And it's an amazing experience.
I'll have to do that. I'll put that on my list for next holiday season.
Yeah. So, speaking of like inner warmth,
Oh, yeah. That's what we were talking about.
We should talk about our wine because we have just dove right
We,
into the
skipped over it.
conversation.
Yeah. And I have a sip left of this glass.
We've lost all format. We're at our season finale, and we're like,
there's no structure anymore.
No structure.
Yep, it's a free for all.
Yes.
We're just swinging from the rafters, aren't we? Yeah. Get down, Emily. Get down. Tell us about our wine.
Well, we actually, I was going to say we picked a wine appropriate for the time, but this is another one that Jason helped us find.
From
Jason
the Wine Merchant?
Yes. And it is called Soul, as in, our inner soul. And this is not to be mistaken. There are a few different bottles of wine out there that are called Soul, and
there's
all
one with
have
a tree-looking thing on the front.
Yeah, and one with like a metal label that's just the letters. There's lots of ones out there. This one has the cool ink painting of a bull. And the grape is Monastrell. It's from Spain. It's called Sol, and then CR is on the label. This is from 2015. It's 100% Monastrell grape. This is from the Humilla region. Now, I said that Humilla because that's what it looks like when you read it.
So spell it, Emily.
It's Jumilla. I have a suspicion that it's probably Humilla. Because the two L's are a ya sound, I believe. I don't speak Spanish, but I try to get things correct when I can.
I think this is actually an appropriate bottle, given that there's a bull on the front, and that's the sign of the Taurus, and I'm a Taurus, and you're a Taurus too, aren't you, Jacqui?
I am.
Yeah. Are you?
Oh.
I'm May 2nd. What are you?
May 10th.
I thought I remembered that on Facebook.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well,
so the wine is for us.
It's great.
Yeah,
Well,
it's got our portrait on the front.
And let's face it, we are ladies that put our souls out there for everyone, right?
For everybody to hear and digest and think about and
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So I think this is a really nice fit for our final season conversation. This is a great price point too. It's $15.
Excellent.
I'm enjoying this. I find right away, like from the fruit side of things, I'm getting blackberry and cassis. I'm finding a lot of vanilla and tobacco, a little cinnamon on this. I'm getting some pretty violet. I think this is really interesting wine. The vineyard that produces this, by the way, is called Crapula, and which is a totally different meaning in Spanish.
There's
Very
it's
true.
probably a different pronunciation too. It's probably like
I don't know.
It's probably like Smith, or something. It's spelled crapula, but you say Smith. Yeah.
Well, either way, it's. I think it means something more along the lines of like a boozy playboy or something like that. It's not, this is not crapula or crapola wine. It's actually quite lovely. So,
has anybody consulted with their marketing department about maybe working on that?
Yeah, work with the importers at least.
Really? Are you saying that we need to have an American label?
No.
It's in our country. Please put an American label on here.
Well, there are some
No,
words
like
that
the
just
label
don't work
looks
here.
fine.
Yeah.
It's just the whole. Where does it say crapula on it? At the bottom, or
I think this is just me doing research and knowing about the wine. It doesn't actually say that it's from that
So
proprietor.
the marketing company already knew that.
already knew.
Yeah, they got the news. They got the news, ladies.
That is
Yeah.
does not respond
All
well
right,
with this
I will
demographic.
cancel that tweet. Not gonna send that one out. Yeah, it is lovely.
Yeah.
I was drinking this throughout our first segment here, and I felt it was very smoky.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I didn't hear you say smoky. That was like, oh, maybe I
She
was
said
wrong.
Tobacco.
But you're feeling more the smoke.
I'm feeling more smoke than tobacco on that. It's
I love
a lovely
the fruit,
color.
and I'm glad you said cassis because I was trying to put my finger on that, and I got the berries, but I'm like a jammy red wine kind of person. So
Oh, well, good. I think
When you
this
say
is
jammy red wine, is that like what you need to wear while you're drinking the red wine?
no, I like my red wine. So like my husband
jammies.
Michael likes like earthier red wines, like from northern Italy where you get a lot of the terroir and kind of clay and mineral.
Yeah.
And I like big blackberry Zinfandels or where it
Okay, well,
tastes
good.
like you're eating jam out of a jar.
Okay, so then this is
This is great. This is lovely.
Yes. I would like to drink wine with your husband.
Yeah, that's gonna be, he loves
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I like wine that just makes me feel really good.
Are there
like
wines
wine.
that don't make you feel
And-
good?
yeah.
Is the
There
question.
are,
yeah,
there
yeah,
are.
okay.
There are, especially since I've been doing this podcast. I have
we've had
I have moved solidly out of the I'm an $8 girl volume drinker to
Your price point has
my
increased.
price point has increased.
As has your collection.
as has the number of bottles in my house.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
embarrassing. Well, but not nearly as embarrassing as probably like you have or Jacqui has, but
I don't buy Intel.
I can't keep wine in my house. We drink it too fast. So that's the
well,
problem.
I counted it up the other day. I have 58 bottles of wine.
That's good. That's
And-
that's a good
That's
St.
a
Louis snowstorm.
respectable-
That's good.
Yeah.
Isn't that? And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, it's gonna be snowing later. I can stay in and just drink all this wine. Oh, but wait, I don't know.
Don't you find, I know that you're getting to this point too, because I have these occasions where it's like I go through my collection, I have a fair amount, and I'm like,
She's probably got
but
3 times that I do.
oh, I don't, I this is my last one of that, and it's very tough to pick out which one you want to drink.
I find that it's a lot easier for me to drink a bottle if I know I have another bottle of it in the
Absolutely.
collection.
Yeah.
And then when I was putting everything together, because I went to IKEA, I bought myself a nice little wine rack, moved it to the basement because Emily had shamed me about where I was keeping the wine.
In the window.
High up in the ceiling.
with a neon sign, like pointing at it. Look what I bought today, So I got the wine rack, and I was like, oh, the 24-bottle wine rack, that'll be fine. I won't need more than that. And then I just kept bringing it down. I'm like, crates, get the crates. We don't need them for the Christmas decorations anymore. Bring them for the wine. And I was like, wow, I have like 4 bottles of the same Secret Famille. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's. Yeah.
And I was like, I need to like go back online and find out how much I paid for all of these and see. And I'm thinking if I organize it by price point, then as opposed to alphabetical or matching labels, then I might actually feel more comfortable. Like, okay, today it's a Sunday, and I'm not, and okay, I'll drink a $40 bottle of wine because it's Sunday versus like,
right.
We've
definitely.
Is this a Sunday afternoon wine?
Yeah,
or?
We've definitely made the accident of like just pulling a bottle and then drinking. We're like, man, this is really awesome, and then like researching it later, and it's like, oh. Yeah.
But you know what? Why wait for a special occasion to enjoy amazing wine?
I agree.
What a happy accident. You're like, oh, you know what? We were just going to sit on the front porch and talk, but we sat on the front porch and talked with a $200 bottle of wine, which just made that conversation better. I love those moments. Happy accidents.
Yeah, yeah. I have my dad and his girlfriend companion had come through town a couple weeks ago, and we'd had some people over, so I had a few bottles that are open. I had tasted this other rosé that I wasn't too excited about, and they love wine. And so I was like, hey, guys, sit down. And I did like a little wine tasting with them. I'm like, try this. What, do you like this? And this rosé had a bit of a grapefruit taste to it, which is called Pamplona. I was like, oh, I could not stomach it. And I'm like, but I know I spent like $16, $17 on it, so I'm not just getting rid of it. And Candy just loved it. I'm like, oh, take it with you. And then I'm like, oh, she's happy with it. And then we did champagne. I did a few things before we wandered ourselves over to the Wine Down Wednesday at Oliva on the Hill.
Yeah.
But I felt like, again, a little bit more comfortable in sharing these wines with my dad and Candy because of my relationship and friendship with Emily and what I've learned here on the podcast and my discerning palate. I've even gotten comfortable enough to be at a restaurant and go, yeah, this sucks.
Yeah, right. This doesn't taste right. You sent a wine back the other day. Like,
yeah, I did, and they gave me like a look like,
I know.
Are you sure?
Who do you think you are?
I don't like it. It's terrible.
Like, have you listened to my podcast? I know.
Oh, don't make me pull Emily out.
I'm like, I can tell you, this is a black lacy panty wine or a funky.
No, this is like you'd even bother to launder yourself wine. I mean that it was terrible. They're like, well, it's such and such. I go, it's terrible.
It's 3-day-old panty wine.
It's a 3-day-old panty wine. It is
I
like
think some people
it's a panty you found in the corner after you moved wine. You're like, oh, yeah, that's just going off into the dumpster. We're gonna pick it up from
which, by the way, is not the panty that represents today's wine.
No, not at all.
What is the panty that represents today's wine?
And drink a little more. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
Okay. Well, hey, to build off of your stream of thought of organizing your wines by price point, I have a couple of ways that I organize my wine. And since I've moved, I need to kind of spend some time reconfiguring everything. But I like to start by region and then by price point. And then what I do is I also every, now and then I go through and then I bring things up that I feel like, oh, this is time to drink now based on its age.
Oh, you babysit your wine.
I do.
I have, Emily, red.
That's a region.
And I have, the white doesn't even make it downstairs. It just stays up in the stairs. And then I have the boxes of the rosé that I have and champagne.
You have a nice collection now, though.
I do.
Yeah, and you have French, you have Italian, you have some Californian. So
I
there
do.
You go.
I guess I do.
And those are very distinct styles. And
right. So I
you have Bordeaux.
I do.
Yeah.
I have
See,
expensive
I know her
bottles.
collection.
we went to the wine tasting a week or so ago at the wine merchant, and this is how funny it is. We're going along, we're tasting stuff, and I was like, "Oh, this is lovely." And she's like, "What?" And getting all the information from the proprietor who's doing the tasting, and then she goes, "Yeah," and she picks up 2 bottles and she hands me one. Like, here you go. All right, I guess I'm buying this bottle now.
This is coming home with me then.
I guess I'll domain something. It was Domaine de Rose or something like that. But I just thought that was funny. She was like, all right, you're going to buy that? And then we're going to buy this. And then we did pick up sometimes we negotiate, like, all right, I'll buy this bottle and then you buy that bottle and then we'll drink it together, you know, versus having to have a bottle each.
Very true. In fact, and that is a second category that I have. I have like the Michelle and Emily wine in its own section. Yeah. Very true.
We used to do a subscription with Turley Wines.
Oh, yeah.
And that was this was a while ago. And it was great because I'd get 3 wines a month, and it was amazing. We waited forever to get that we were waitlisted on the subscription list. But then once they first started coming, they were amazing. And Michael started hiding them from me because what he would notice is I'd have friends over and we'd start with like the $15 bottles of wine. But by the time we got to the 4th bottle, I'm like, oh, well, you have to taste this amazing one.
Braver.
He's like, you never, that's never the 4th bottle, Jacqui. You know, you start there and then you go down. And I'm like, but I was just thinking how good that would taste. And he's like, no, you can't, you cannot have the key to the wine closet any longer and take it away.
So are you currently a member of any wine wine clubs or anything like that?
We're not. You know, when we moved into spirits a few years ago, we really committed to spirits. And what you guys are talking about with your wine, I have a secret cupboard, when Citadel Gin, which is a maker out of France, and you know how I feel about France.
And I like that gin very much.
Oh, it's so good. So they're doing a reserve gin, and for a long time they were doing single batch reserves, and then they switched to the Solera method. Well, I was talking
What's that?
Solera is like they do with sherry, where they kind of continually mix. You know, they have essentially a standing batch, and then they mix new additions to it.
Sure.
And so it's just kind of always aging and always blending, but it's not what you think of when you think of like aging a whiskey, for example, in its barrel. And that's what they were doing previously. And so they had vintages on their aged gin.
Wow.
And so the kind of U.S. representative for Citadel was in town, and he'd been at the wine merchant and said, oh, they still have some of our 2012 vintage. They're the last place I've seen it in America. So I texted Michael and said, stop it and get it all. Just buy it all.
How many bottles do they have?
He bought 5. And so, so I'm down to my last 2, but they're in a special place.
And how do you feel about that? Are you like a little anxious about it?
I kind of get that way where I'm like,
I don't know.
I'll buy other stuff for normal stuff, but if I want to do a really amazing, I like kind of softer, rounder things, and that's why I kind of like the aged or the reserve gin, because it takes that kind of edge off of it.
What's the price on that? I
mean, I'm terribly embarrassed to say I have no idea. I bet it's in the 28 to 35 range. I mean,
that's very.
I'm not going to swear by that, but I think it's right in that area.
So, have you ever gone to Gin World?
Aren't you good friends with?
Yeah, with Natasha.
So I'm very interested in talking to Natasha at some point.
Oh, yeah.
But I love what she has done for gin in general, and how awesome that it exists. So for those of you who are listening who don't know, St. Louis has the largest festival that celebrates gin. Is it the largest or largest in the United States?
I don't. It'd be hard to say. It's a very big one. And the nice thing is she's moving them into new cities. So she did it in D.C. They expanded in D.C. version. And I think I just saw that they have one in Arizona coming up. So, so she's expanding it.
Amazing.
When I was visiting my sister, there's something called Gin Festival. Okay. And they have 300 gins you can taste. And that was
Where is that?
An amazing. She lives in England. So yeah. And gin in the UK have always hand in glove. It's just a thing that always goes together. So
yeah.
So we did
a few.
We've done a couple of those festivals that are amazing. You can never have enough gin for me.
I
gin
love
and croquet
it.
party.
So a few weekends ago, Michelle and we had a series of meetings and events that we had lined up, and it was okay. And I was so tired that day, and one of our meetings was getting pushed back, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired, I'm not going to make it through.
I was like, Emily, come on, suck it up, girl.
I know.
Really.
And I'm usually
I was throwing up against the wall. Wake up! You know, this whole tiredness thing. We don't have time for that.
I finally got tired. And so we decided, okay, well, we're waiting for a meeting. So we went to the Crossing, which is next to the Wine Merchant, and a really nice restaurant in town. And so I was like, let's get a drink. So Michelle had a glass of wine.
You know, it's one of those like, wow, I could just go next door and buy a whole bottle for this amount and be a lot happier.
So much better.
Yeah.
I, however, had a gin martini that was spectacular. So he made it with the Four Hands gin. So
oh my gosh, the 1220 spirits. Yes. So
Isn't that
Four Hands
delicious?
has just started a new spirits line called 1220 Spirits. And they are doing a rested gin that is
I know, I tasted it.
amazing. No, but they use the regular gin. We are so lucky in St. Louis because not only is Four Hands making an amazing, London dry style, New American maybe is a better name for it, and an aged, but the other one is Still 630.
Still 630?
Yeah, do you guys know them? They are literally across the street from the Arch downtown on Broadway. They have a gin called Volstead's Folly. And then they just came out with a Navy Strength. And oh my
A Navy
God.
Strength? What is
a Navy Strength gin? Oh.
Is that,
oh
if
my
you
gosh.
drink that, you like take home a Navy man?
Right. Like sailors pop out of the bottle.
I mean, because like, let's go buy that now.
Well, no, but it
we
is
will take
actually
a break
connected
and then
truly to the Navy. So one of the risks of having alcohol on board, think back like 200 years in the British Navy, is that if the alcohol spilled on the gunpowder, then all of a sudden the gunpowder in the cannons wouldn't work because you couldn't ignite it. So they needed to have their alcohol at a certain proof that
dry
if it
quickly.
spilled, it
it'd
spilled,
collide on
it
fire.
would still light. And so what they found is this is like a true story, and that it's called Navy Strength, and so it's usually right around 110 proof or 55% ABV. Which is, it's only about 10% more ABV than most gins, because most gins are between 90 and 94. But yeah, Navy Strength. But sometimes when you think like really high proof, you think, oh my God, that's going to burn. And it's going to be, but what Dave has done down at Still 630 with his Navy Strength has kept still a really good drinkable gin that you can use as kind of an amazing backbone in your classic gin cocktails like a Negroni or I think it's probably a little strong for my taste for martinis because it's a lot of booze, but I love it in a Negroni. So I could talk about alcohol all night long, you guys, because that's like that's my thing. Give me more spirits.
I don't know. This is clearly speaking the podcast. We don't really drink. We don't talk about much of anything here except, stuff about stuff.
Well, yeah.
But I'm empty, Emily. My soul.
Your soul
has left the building.
It's so dry.
Your soul is.
So can we take a quick break and let you refresh my glass and let you guys catch up to me and then we'll continue this conversation with Jacqui?
Absolutely.
All right, then let's do that.
Sorry,
so
I could go on and on.
You're perfect. No, that's great.
It's wonderful. It's a conversation.
So I, by the way, like that martini, that what made it even better is that they use those Castelvetrano olives, the ones that are
those are my favorite olives.
I love that. Me too. And they stump
Conversation with Jacqui.
Absolutely. With a smoked red pepper.
Oh.
Ain't no pimento there.
Yeah.
Well,
do you want to taste this? Do you still have your?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just enjoying learning. I didn't even know this about gin.
Oh my God.
Just learning all kinds of things.
But you guys, honestly, my little secret closet is so funny. Like I entered a Sangrita competition.
A what?
Sangrita competition.
What is that?
It's a
Well,
Sangrita.
let's talk about that on the
Okay.
show because I'm like, what is that?
But I've got this little closet that, like, as a thank you for entering the competition or as recognition, because a lot of people can't win these things. They gave us a special bottle of like this tequila from this area. And I'm like, that's never getting opened. Or when I was in Calvados, in Normandy, I brought home like some really nice
Okay, well, let's talk
Calvados.
about it because we could go all kinds of directions with good alcohol because that's something we do feature wine, but we don't talk about all these other things that are
Don't
delicious.
even get me started on when I was in Cognac, because I really,
Oh
truly
my
believe
God, seriously.
there is no more
Cognac.
pretentious way to start a sentence than, well, when I was in Cognac.
I just want to be there.
No, I'm serious.
With you.
There's no way to make that sound not snobby.
I love good cognac, but
It can't.
No, but it sounds like a great story.
Oh,
I know, I can't wait to hear it. And yeah, mezcal. Are you a mezcal lady?
I will drink mezcal. I prefer like a añejo or an extra añejo tequila more. Michael loves the smokies, so he likes kind of the Isla Scotches, and he likes.
Me too.
I know you and Michael,
We have
because
the
it
same
sounds like
palate.
you also like funky hogo stuff, and so you would like the rum agricoles as
Totally.
opposed to like rums.
Yeah, we have the same.
Yeah.
Did I give a panty description of this? I don't
Like
remember.
you didn't ever come back to that. We still need to come back to that. You were thinking about it. What you said?
Edible.
Oh, yeah.
Edible.
That was the last
No,
one.
that was hers.
That was mine. This one was
Oh.
in the corner.
Mm-mm.
Your old wine.
No, that was the wine that she got at the restaurant that she sent back. So you haven't told
Okay.
this. Sorry.
I think you're right. I think we need a panty description. It won't hurt us to have two.
We'll have to listen to this. We'll have to listen to the show and go, oh, that's right. Yeah, I did say that. Yeah.
Oops.
I was listening to one of our episodes to prepare it for uploading and, cataloging, hashtags, keywords and stuff like that. And and our description of the wine that we were drinking, I was like, oh, yes, it was so good. That I was like, I think I bought another bottle. I think it's downstairs. And I went down and I found a bottle of it. I was like, oh, I just have one though. I can't drink it unless I have another one, in the
reserve.
the
Yeah.
reserve.
Okay.
It was a Valmocene, the Pinot Noir.
That one's delicious.
But it's like one of the first ones that I've listened to the
It
show
was
and
very
wanted to go drink
clear,
it
yeah.
again.
I remember how good that was. Where did I put that?
Where is it? So
Oh, well, so last time I was in England visiting my sister, because she lives in Ashford, which is 10 minutes from the train to France.
oh wow.
So, like, for their wedding, they just went to Champagne and filled up the back of her station wagon with cases of champagne and did champagne.
See, that's
you know.
perfect.
But there's a wine festival in Lille, and there was only like 600 producers there. And so they'll go down, and she has like a Subaru wagon kind of thing. And they'll go down for the day and talk about Bordeaux. So like Pomerols are their favorite. That's just their favorite kind of
It's great. I
area
mean,
within
hello,
it.
yeah, it's great.
Saint-Emilion. Oh, no,
that's
that's
what
one
we
they've had
just
before. But
had.
there's one in Pomerol that's very similar in like I can't remember. Any case, so she'll just come back with they'll buy twice a year. It's in April and November, and twice a year they'll go down, fill up the entire back.
Do you
of the
find that
station
you
wagon.
now like timing your
Nice.
visits to her in April and
I
November?
accidentally showed up at twice, 2 of them. Oops, bummer. Here I am.
Let's just get you guys both a little touch. All right. Let's go ahead and just get you a tiny hit too.
But they also
and
have Armagnac and Cognac producers. It's
I
like
love
all of the
I love
French-
Armagnac, by the way.
Oh, I love Armagnac
Yeah.
as well. Oh,
Making me want to drink.
I know.
we might be
So
okay.
much.
You could always have a spit bucket nearby.
Oh, no, that would be so hard.
Oh, I know it is tough.
That's why
Okay,
I could never be a bulimic.
I know.
That
Well, you get to
tastes
ta-
good.
you
Well,
get
it
to
only
taste
tastes
it
good in one
twice.
direction.
I was like, what? Not chew, spit it out? No, I gotta
I don't
have
know.
all of
Haven't
it.
you ever gotten sick before after a good meal and
No.
like?
And gone like, yum, that was delicious. That has
I
never
wouldn't say
happened,
yum,
Emily.
but I've gotten sick plenty of times. And there have been times where it was like, that was the worst. I will never eat that again. And there were times like, well, that wasn't so bad.
That's what he meant to Mike. Like, no.
Oh my gosh. No, that has honestly absolutely never happened to me. Nothing.
That's a good podcast extra there.
Oh God.
That's really
Emily.
gross.
Seriously,
That's
Dad.
legitimately gross.
I mean, I think you have. I think that's
You
what-
must be eating amazing meals.
I mean, she. I Ain't no steak and shake.
Oh my God.
Ain't no bread.
It's all about the dessert. You gotta get a good dessert.
Oh, stop right now. I can't even imagine.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
That's what she said.
First in, first out, or last in, first out.
Oh, God. Oh, my Lord. All right.
Well, we can only go up from here.
How are you? I don't know.
That's my plan. I'm going to raise it. I'm going to raise the level. I'm going to raise the level of our conversation.
Level up.
All right. Well, when we're ready, right?
No.
Okay. Well, that was a pretty fun little
That was an
pause we
interesting
had.
little break we had there. Sometimes I worry for us. I'm like, maybe we should just go without a break. You know, the stuff that happens in between, listeners, you'll have to go watch the YouTube.
I know.
There's a side of Emily that we learned about that I mean, it's one of those things that you can't undo. It's like, when you see somebody like, no, I can't unsee that. I can never unsee that. I will never
Not know this.
Unhear
know
that.
this.
About you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to refrain from saying anything about it because I want our listeners to.
I'm not ashamed. It's
No, that
just
you
the
shouldn't-
truth.
And she's probably not wrong.
Yeah,
We just
you
haven't
know.
been lucky enough to
Have the same
know
experience.
what she's talking about.
to be that cognizant to be able to even say that. Oh, that's not so bad.
I'm just going to say this. I'm a high taster.
Oh, Lord.
You have a sensitive palate, do you?
I do.
Hashtag high taster. I'm making that note right here. Okay.
Yes.
Thank God I smoke.
So
Interesting. But anyway, go on our
yes.
YouTube channel and you'll get to know what this inside joke is all about.
That's
dear
right.
listeners.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that it's easy to find once it's up there. It'll say season finale, season 1.
We may even timestamp it. What we need to go straight to what to this is all about. Possibly.
Possibly. So, Michelle,
Mhm.
did you give your description of this wine yet?
I have not. I don't believe I've
Yeah.
given my description of this wine. And we did talk earlier. It's a lovely, lovely, lovely wine. It goes down very easy.
That kind of makes me think of what we were just talking about, but we're going to skip that.
Well, no, that seems like a great segue into panties.
It
goes
does.
down, falls down very easy.
Maybe
Yes.
that's also the panty description. The
Yeah,
ones
no,
that
it's
fall down
more
very
like
easy.
it's a Spanish wine. And it should be drank with a really lovely Spanish man. He could speak English or not. But yeah, I have the panty set. It's to me, it's like a really supple black leather panty and brassiere set. That's what I'm seeing when I'm drinking this wine.
When you were talking about the Spanish man, it made me think, especially because there's a bull on here. It's like, okay, is he the toreador? Is he
Versus the clown. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's definitely suave. It's definitely
he knows how to
suave.
magically remove that sheet?
There's no magic.
Cape waving. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Exactly. That's right.
And you are a bull. Maybe
I am a
that's
bull. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you're-
a Taurus. So, not that I can be, teased for very long
no.
without me.
You have no patience for
without
that.
me getting really irritated. I totally understand how those bulls feel. Like,
Oh,
get out of my face with that red thing.
Done. We did this. That was fun for a minute.
Yeah,
Enough.
yeah,
Bye.
I do think it's kind of. I mean, I think it's kind of cruel. Now, I don't
Yeah.
know the whole history and everything. I believe, at least I want to believe, that when it originated, it was like, oh, okay, so the bull becomes the food for the community,
Oh, I don't think that was ever it.
right? See, that's what I want to
All right.
believe.
Oh,
That's
okay.
my
Sorry,
theory.
that might be it.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I
yeah,
love
if that
why
makes you feel better. I think it was
torture?
total.
This is all male virility, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's all ritual. It's
Machismo and- yeah.
Yeah,
it's a tradition.
I've noted, and it's so interesting because I know
who
they
can
still
run,
do
who
these.
can run the fastest? I mean, really, think running with the bulls. Not
Oh.
interested.
What on earth?
I
were they
mean, I don't
thinking?
even know if I would feel comfortable watching a running with the bulls. I might want to be on the outskirts, maybe drinking some wine and go, oh, that's what's happening in the city right now. But I'm not so sure I actually want to watch it.
Well, let's face it, you could get stampeded by people just as easily as you can get stampeded by bulls.
Do you guys know what the irony of me being a Taurus is? Is that I am scared to death of cows. Real life. Cows scare me. Cattle scare me.
Really?
Well, my grandparents had a cattle ranch. And, so this is a joke amongst all my friends. Like, cows kill more people than sharks. And I think everybody needs to know that. That's true. Hashtag true.
I believe that.
It's
sure.
really super true. And by
Through
huge,
kicking or how?
well, cows are dumb, and so they'll accidentally pin you up against a fence and then not be smart enough to move. And you're like, get off me. And that's what happened to me when I was I used to have to go collect the eggs at my grandparents' farm. And it was in the middle of kind of the feed lot for all the steers. And they had Angus and Herefordshire and all that kind of stuff.
What state did they live in?
Illinois. Eastern Illinois. Yep.
Okay.
And so I had to go to the hen house that was out in the middle of this. And so you've got, my grandmother's boots on, which were too big for me, but they kept me plucking through the mud. And one time I was coming back from the hen house and a steer just casually, and steers are, 900 to 1,200 pounds, casually just shifted its weight and pinned me against a fence.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I couldn't move and I'm yelling and I'm like trying to
so
hit it
scary.
away from me. And so
It was not aware you were there.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was. Maybe they are like just malicious beings, which is kind of what runs through the back of my mind. But also, they're just not terribly smart. So anytime I see cows, I'm like, you roving band of treacherous bovines.
My mom had a couple of horses, and there was one in particular when you would, ride her, she would intentionally run you into a tree, and I know it was like, oh, she's getting back at you, like I knew that was an intentional thing, which kind of plays on your point, like, I don't know.
Horses are though
maybe.
like 1,000 times smarter than cows.
So are they inbred?
Yeah, but
Like what leads to their lack of intelligence?
No, I just don't think
They're
they're
just.
I mean, I don't want to talk bad about cows. There are
Yeah.
probably some very nice cows, and I don't
Yeah.
want to stereotype
Yeah.
all cattle.
Yeah,
But I
because
think
they're
generally
listening. They're listening. They actually pipe in the Clearly Speaking podcast
Right.
to help them produce their milk. Yeah,
Oh,
it's like
we're-
it's totally.
No, I
like-
haven't spent time around dairy cattle. This is all
Yeah.
like
We're gonna
cows
get,
we
we're gonna
eat. So
get
I
some
never
hate mail.
felt terribly bad about enjoying a delicious steak. I'm like,
Because you're like,
yum.
Yeah, because you pinned me against the fence.
Oh, is this one today?
Yeah, that one time. So this is
sorry.
kind of like a
Weird
odd
segue.
segue, but not really. Talking about things that frighten you. So this weekend, Emily and I were at this one bar here in St. Louis watching a friend's band play.
Oh God,
And
that was
they
frightening.
Incorporated a chainsaw.
On stage?
That's what I had hoped.
Oh, until he got off the stage and then started to
Run into the crowd.
wander through the bar with the chainsaw going. It was
Terrifying.
it was very scary and not that I mean, that person wasn't going to do anything, but how do I know that?
Well,
right?
And also, accidents happen.
Exactly. So our friend
Accidents
she
happen.
warned us. She's like, "Oh yeah, he's
There's
going
a
to bring a
chainsaw.
chainsaw out." I was like, "Okay, that's fine." I thought he was going to keep it on stage.
Like,
Yeah, in his zone. In his. Yeah.
He came out and he was liking it too. And I just turned my back and I was like, well, I guess if this is how I'm going,
I
thought maybe I should fight more. Maybe I should not.
Was it
relinquish-
electric? You're like, maybe I should unplug it. Or was it
So-
gas?
it was
No.
gas.
So
It was gas.
I
And was
just-
like, that's a bigger chainsaw than one I got.
So I buried my eyes in my friend's furry coat when this was going on because, like, okay, the last thing I'm going to see is a furry coat thing. That's the best I can do at this moment. So I was like, no. But I had a traumatic little
It was bad.
flashback in that moment.
It was bad. I don't think it. If I were the bar owner, I would find that was not something I would want any of the acts that
Yeah,
I
what kind
have.
of liability insurance do you need for that?
They probably don't actually let the insurance company know.
No. Oh, well,
Probably.
you want to name the bar now? So
Yeah, not gonna do that. Not gonna do that because
I like the bar, but boy, that was
it was.
scary.
Yeah, it was.
So the chainsaw, can I tell you my chainsaw scary story, which is what I was like flashing back to? Okay, so I, as a kid, like I loved going to, at Halloween time, going to Halloween, like the haunted houses. I always thought it was fun. They never terrified me. I thought it was just silly. It was very clear it was fake. Until I went to a haunted house in Canton, Illinois, which is a very small, tired town. And this house was on the outskirts of town, a good 15 miles. So it's in a cornfield. And, the haunted house itself was legitimately scary. It was an old farmhouse turned into like people chasing you. And it was the scariest one I'd ever been into. It kind of reminded me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You did not have your flask with you at that point in time?
No, I was much younger. And this is before I discovered the joys of the flask. So you get chased outside of the house into the back of, out through the kitchen, and now you're like in the cornfield, and all of a sudden this tractor comes on and its lights come on and it starts chasing you. And then simultaneously, this person comes after you with a chainsaw, and you are being routed through a corn maze between both a chainsaw and a tractor. That was scary.
That sounds horrifying.
I have not recovered. I'm still getting therapy on that one.
I am not a person who enjoys being scared. Are you, Michelle?
No, I'm not.
I haven't. I mean, I'm like,
I don't even watch American Horror Story. I'm like, no, thank you.
Oh,
Not
I'm the
interested.
same way. I cannot watch. And my oldest son is like, "Oh, Mom, you have to." I'm like, "No." I like just totally. I don't need that. Whatever that chemical,
Release.
Yeah.
that kind of whatever that one is. That kind of fight or flight. I honestly just, I'm not interested in that. I'm also not an adrenaline. I'm like, I don't need anything that goes fast. I'm the one who pauses to let you cut in front of me on the highway. I'm like, I got all day. Go ahead, get on the interstate. It's just not worth it. But and I'm like, and I've walked out of rooms for those kind of things. When scary things start happening, I'm like, nope, opting out. Ciao.
I mean,
I do the same.
I've revisited the chainsaw guy in my mind, and like how quickly I turned my back, and I was like I was a possum. Okay,
Yeah.
I know.
It's just not
we didn't run out the
entertaining,
door.
right?
If this is how I'm gonna die, then
Yeah.
let me have it, right? I was like, wow, I would have thought that, like, why didn't I get up and flee and go out the back door or something like that, or take up smoking again or whatever.
It was so sudden and so off guard, like we weren't prepared for it.
And yet my reaction, your reaction was to, turn tits up and just like, okay, kill us, right? I mean, we need to really think about that, Emily, and we should probably try to cling on to life a little harder than that.
I guess my
I'm just
hope was
saying.
that the hope was that we knew it was a gimmick. Like,
Well, yeah,
I
we
mean,
can't
You
always
guys are
hope.
optimists.
You can't.
You're
I-
an optimist,
well, I am.
Emily.
I
You're
am.
but we
he
need to have.
won't really kill us
He
with
won't really
that.
kill us, but if he is, I'm going to turn my back to him so I don't know I'm about to die.
Yeah.
We need to really think about that and come
Work
up
on
with
our flight skills a little bit.
Yeah, our fight or flight and our flight skills. Yeah.
I'm like you, Jackie, though. Like, anytime there's a Netflix series or something that I'm watching, or I remember watching Breaking Bad, and I had to pause and take time in between every episode. Maybe unlike you, I am compelled to watch this. Like there's something that draws. I gotta see it. But I had to take months off in between episodes, which was frustrating for my fiance that just wanted to binge watch it all. I was like, no. She's like, are you ready yet? I'm like, no. I'm still having nightmares.
I'll take Miss Maisel every
I
day.
love Miss Maisel. Yeah.
Isn't that one
Yeah.
great?
And that's what I'm saying is like I'm fine with like uncomfortable psychological situations where you're like, oh, this is awkward, but like the gratuitous like horror and frightening is I'm just like, no. I mean, look, there are frightening enough stuff just in everything that we have to deal with on a daily basis.
right.
Yeah,
I
when
don't
I
need
was
to be
when I was
scared.
in college,
artificially.
we had a speaker come to the campus, and his name was Robert Ressler, and he was the first FBI behavioral profiler, and he was, if you saw Silence of the Lambs, which I think was the last scary movie I saw. he was the character Clarice's boss was based on him, and he wrote this book called Whoever Fights Monsters. And I remember being afraid to leave the auditorium because he was giving his talk and he was talking about interviewing Dahmer and all of these things. And he had a good sense of humor, and he said, when I interviewed Jeffrey Dahmer, I brought my own lunch.
Oh my God. Wow.
And he was like, but you have to have that sense of humor because otherwise,
you can't make it through.
Right. And so his thing
becomes
was
horrific.
And the title Whoever Fights Monsters, you're looking so much into the depths of their soul, you see yourself reflected back in it. And I remember I was living in Mississippi at the time, and I'm reading the book, and I've never finished the book because I was so scared. And this is all true life stuff, that I stayed awake until like 5:30 in the morning because nobody kills you in the daylight.
No, it's only dark.
It's only the dark time. I was like, oh, I have to stay awake, and I because I was so entirely frightened by that. And since reading that book, now maybe I'll watch was it Criminal Intent on CBS, and they use a lot of his stories, and I'm like, oh, that's this one, that's that one, but I was convinced that everybody at the bar was a serial killer. I was a cocktail waitress. I was like, oh, yeah, look at him.
You're like your own junior profiler now.
Serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seen that behavior before.
Yeah. Look what he orders. Serial killer. And
oh, my God.
I was convinced. Yeah, it was pretty funny. And there was something else about that, and I will remember it in a moment. But it was. So I don't need to watch a scary movie. Oh, this is the part. Sorry, everybody. The other thing in that book that I have internalized, and this is a practice in my life. There was these murders happening. They couldn't figure out how to connect them, and that's called a disorganized killer or an unorganized. An organized killer. Eventually, they'll find the pattern and they'll figure it out. But usually, with a disorganized, it has to be like chance. So they finally caught this guy, and they were like the victims were the same. There was like they couldn't tie anything together, and they said to him, "I was like, well, how did you choose your victims?" And the guy said, "Well, I just went up to the door, and if it was unlocked, I was supposed to go in."
Oh my God.
So your door is always locked?
My front door, my back door, all the doors are always locked.
As it should be.
It's like, no, that's my takeaway, because because you never know.
Yeah.
Did you always lock your doors growing up?
Well, when we lived in Chesterfield, we literally didn't have the keys to our house. We never locked. This was up until 2 years ago when we sold the house. They're like, turn the keys in. I'm like, I don't have the keys because honestly, we have never locked the doors in this house. We had the house for my kids growing up that was right behind the high school, and it was just kind of where everybody came after school. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of those people. Our house when we lived in Denver had been broken into. One of those people where I don't know that I own much that I stake too much value on. Literally the things I own. I'm not a sentimentalist. I'm just not that person. And I'm really,
except for your gin, it can be all replaced.
And the gin is in a secret place, and that if you don't know the key, you will lose your hand because it's all automated.
Well, there might be traps set on it for sure. I'm not saying it's not risky to go in there, whatever. No. But honestly, even that, where I'm like, it's just not that important. When people are like, what would you take in a fire? I'm like, well, I've had a portrait done of my whole family and a portrait from when my youngest daughter was 8 months old of her and my older daughter. And those are the two things that are like, those need to come with me if they can. If it means that and getting out of my house on fire, that's okay too. They can go. And I think it's because I have so much photography. I have so many other ways to remember this stuff.
Yeah.
And I honestly just don't stake that much value on that.
Well,
and so
mine's not necessarily that I don't want anybody to come in and steal my stuff. I just don't want to be murdered.
Yeah. Well,
that's that's my line.
And I guess I've always
you
lived
need to knock first
and then
give me a chance to say no, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not today.
Ask first.
Not today.
Satan.
Yeah. I'm not buying today.
We've always had just so many people And it's interesting, now where we live, we lock our doors, but we're also home a lot less. I mean, I worked from home for the whole time my kids were growing up. I had a job where I could be home when they left for school and be home. Now, when they started first grade, I have 3 who are within 12 months, and I let them walk down to the end of my cul-de-sac.
Those are not all biologically produced
Yeah,
by
I was
you.
just
No,
because
I did not manage to do that
I'm
math.
doing the math, and that's like
Right.
those
Doesn't
are maybe
quite
a
work.
twin, maybe
Irish triplets, is that really? That's probably
Did
not
somebody
polite to
not
say
get
anymore.
born when they were supposed to
Right.
get born? No.
Yeah, no. So it turned out that I had 3 in first grade, and I let them walk down to the bus stop at the end of my street and wait for the bus by themselves. I'm like, whatever the opposite of helicopter mom is, that's me. I'm a French
that's
mom.
what we-
I
yeah,
raise them
that's-
French style.
Yes, of course. Maybe.
That's why I have 4. Go.
Somebody's gonna come home.
First week, this woman from the neighborhood next to me, whose child was in the same class as one of mine, drove up to my house and said, "I saw your kids at the bus stop." I'm like, "Cool,
Great. That's where they're
and she's
supposed to
like,
be.
by themselves, and I'm like, "Right." And she's like, "What if somebody would have kidnapped them?" And I looked at her and honestly said, "All 3 of them."
Right.
Sold. No, I don't know.
Well, if he can get, if he can get all 3, then more
I-
power to him.
I promise they'll
Yeah.
all be back by dinner time. No, I mean, it's just, but I was there when they left for school, and I was there when they got home, and I worked from home in my sweatpants. Only I didn't go as nice as sweatshirts and yoga pants. I was in pajamas and flannels. That's all I wore, So,
Did you paint in them as well?
oh yes,
Oh, good.
layers,
We
layers.
have matching.
Although I got rid of most of them because I'm like, I'm going to go out in the world now, and I don't need these. Once I got a job, I have to leave my house. But yeah, so somebody was always home. We always had dogs. I'm
I
amazed
like
at
your
how many
dogs.
people are
You have
still.
such great doggies.
I know, but they think that they're miniature dachshunds for everybody listening.
No, they are Dobermans. They're huge.
Yes,
They're
and
huge.
they
They're
are.
like,
They chased 3 the 2 of them chased 3 coyotes out of our backyard in Chesterfield. I am not even
Believe
joking
it.
because we had and they're like, "Oh, this is our yard," and I'm like, dudes, like all they have to do is stop and open their mouths, and you will run right into the coyotes' mouths. But
My brother has a Dachshund as well. And she chased away a burglar who walked into their bedroom at night. And she was like, "Not having
you
this.
do not mess with dachshunds.
Exactly. And out the door. So, yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, now that we live where we are, and there are more times where nobody's home, we do it. We're
You lock
more-
your doors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
But now you're going to lock your door because you don't be murdered.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm putting it out there. You can read the book, Whoever Fights Monsters. I got like 3/4 of the way through. I don't know the rest of the book.
Right.
Maybe a listener out there will send us
I've
an
never
email.
seen the end of Wizard of Oz because once the monkeys come on, I stop watching because I'm scared to death. So I don't know how that ends. I hope it ends well. Go, Dorothy.
Oh well.
It does end well.
Yeah, I mean, except for that sad part, it's all good.
I am
Hope you weren't attached to the dog.
Oh.
It's just a dog, man.
It was an actor dog. No actual dogs were harmed in the making of that movie. It was an actor dog.
I'm going to give you the spoiler alert.
Okay, spoiler. Wizard of Oz
Everything
spoiler.
is happy. It's a happy ever after.
Oh, good.
But I don't know, is it?
Not really. It's not really a happy.
I
ever
am
after.
somebody who loves to know the ending. Also, because I can't handle suspense. I do not handle suspense well. And Ken, thankfully, has finally gotten to the point, that's, my fiance, where he understands this. And so if he knows the ending, he will tell me.
He'll ease you in and just be like, you're going to be okay with this.
Because as long as I know the ending, I can now enjoy the whole story. If I don't know them, I'm going to be in misery the whole time. Do you really want me to be miserable for 2 hours?
Fair.
So how were you when you watched Titanic?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Hashtag the boat sinks.
yeah, right.
Did Ken let you know? How
I
it
mean, I
ended?
knew that one.
Okay.
I saw that long before Ken, so I knew that one. Yeah.
There's another book that I read, Devil in the White City,
Oh, I know. I love that book.
Eric Larson.
Yes. And did you read
Which one?
his next one about the beast?
Yes, in the Garden of the Beast.
Garden of the Beast.
The one about being in Berlin.
Berlin,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
fantastic. But I remember reading Devil in the White City, even though it was set in the 1890
World's
Columbia
Fair.
Exposition in Chicago, and I'm reading it in 2005. I had to make sure that the guy was dead. I'm like
He's
skipping
not
through.
still a threat, right?
Right. He's not still killing people, right? I need to make sure. Oh, did they catch him? And he's dead, and it's all over, right? I mean, that's why I don't do scary movies, because that's how I am.
Right. I
And I don't do chainsaws at bars. I don't. I mean, I'm laying out there. So
Yes.
when we do events for Cliterally Speaking, we're going to
No
have no
chainsaws.
chainsaws. The chainsaws that I have, I use.
Please
They're
leave your
plugged
chainsaw
in.
at the door.
And or
We'll have a
bring your
chainsaw
chainsaw
check.
and we'll take care of the tree that needs to be cut down, and it's all going to
Yes.
be like rigid rules and policies and procedures, and everyone's going to be in safety gear, but not drunk people on a bar stool and you're walking by in the chainsaw.
It is interesting that if you think about the beginning of our season, so early on, Michelle had a black eye for a couple of
I got hit in the face
recordings.
with a tree.
Yeah, due to
No, not to the chainsaw. I got the
Yeah.
chainsaw later to take care of the rest of the tree, but the
Yeah.
tree in my
that was her
backyard.
retaliation. Yeah.
And I felt like, raw woman. So like if you listen back to episode 5, maybe.
I think it's earlier than that
4,
even. Somewhere in there.
and my son and I were taking a tree down, and I was on the wrong side of the tree when it was bouncing on it, and when it cracked, it like
Hit you in the face.
it hit me in the face. I'm very fortunate to be alive because
And still have your eyes.
there's
Yeah.
lots of things I'm fortunate about, but and so then I bought a chainsaw like a month later because the tree was like on the driveway, and I knew my neighbors were like that nasty tree, that kind of stuff. I was like, I need to take care of that, and I went and bought not the least powerful chainsaw. There's electric because I didn't want to have to deal with gas powered, and and I was like,
She
"Look
got
at
her
me."
revenge.
Well,
Yeah.
there was no revenge on the tree. I mean, I was not angry at the tree at all. I was on the wrong side. I was just standing on the wrong side. I did not think ahead. But I do now. I do now.
One time we were trying to take down a tree and didn't think ahead, and it ended up in cornea surgery for our daughter.
Oh my.
And because we thought she just had a black eye where the rope broke and come back. And I'm not going to go into the whole story.
Yeah.
But I told her, here, put some ice on it. You'll be fine. Sent her
Peas.
to
Just
bed.
get the peas.
I did get frozen
Yeah.
peas. Frozen peas were always my ice, I think. Sent her to school the next day. And the nurse is like, I think you need to have somebody look at this. And so then took her to an ophthalmologist who says, I'm going to have you go see a cornea specialist right now. And they did laser surgery on her eye right then. And I felt like Mother of the Year award for going 24 hours. And I'm like, the tree one and that, well, almost the same situation. We're like, we'll just muscle this tree down. So
Exactly. You're like, you're
exactly.
yanking.
We're pulling on the rope. Like, we're going to pull it back here while you do this here. And
Oh my
that did
God.
not work. So I think the moral of this story is, like, hire
They're
tree professionals.
Yeah,
like, and we had from then on, like, that was, okay, we will
Your
never
lesson.
do tree
this,
trimming.
This was a smaller tree,
This
like
one
one of those like
seems small.
I call them hibiscus flowers, I got not hibiscus. Hibiscus is it is a
like the
hibiscus.
Rose of Sharon kind
Yeah,
of
the Rose of
ones.
Sharon kind of
Mhm.
flower, and so it was a smaller tree, and it was one that had looked dead for the whole season, and I had said to my boys, I need that taken down, and they didn't do it, and then that one Sunday I was like, come on, let's go. My younger son William was still with me. I was like, let's go take it down, and this was like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. I get hit in the face, and he's like, guess we're done with yard work today. I was like,
Time to go back to bed.
no, no, we've got more things to do.
You get the duct tape and the peas. You're fine.
The peas on my face. Come on, we got stuff to do. It was just, it's pretty funny. That's how it rolls in my house.
Don't you laugh? Like, okay, so you have kids. Emily, I don't know if you have kids.
I don't.
So
no.
I have, and all of my kids thankfully have reached adulthood. Well, my youngest will be 21 next month. So I figure all of my kids have reached adulthood. So I'm nearly done being a parent now. I think that's how that works.
Yeah. Let me know how much your pocketbook increases once that
The last one finishes university. Yeah, that's going to be super awesome.
I'm counting on it.
We have an exit plan for that. But I remember, it's so funny when you said, like, there's a lot of things I'm thankful for, and we look back on our lives and we think of all the things we've done that we should have died as a result of, and we didn't. And we're like, oh, that turned out fine. And it was so different living through those stupid decisions for me personally than it was watching my kids live through, like I lived through the stupid decisions and I'm like, oh, great. So I was in Ireland and I just got in a van with 3 guys that I didn't know and let them take me to a bar in the next county. And I've got air quotes around the next county because that happens to be an hour away down a 2-lane road with a drunk guy driving and the road is like 7 feet wide, right? And I'm like,
I have the same story in Jamaica,
now,
by the way.
right?
Yeah.
And yet we didn't think anything about it until later where we're like, that probably wasn't
Not
smart.
wise. Yeah.
And then your kids do something like don't wear their seatbelt and you're like, you'll never learn. Why do you put yourself in all this risk, right?
I'm going to now tape this plastic bubble wrap around you till you figure it out. Yeah. There are stories
so much harder, though, watching your kids go through those learning things than it was living them yourself,
There are things that I won't tell my kids until they're 30 that
so I
did.
didn't think about this. I thought, honestly, as my kids were growing up, I wanted them to learn from my mistakes. And I would, I thank you for laughing.
Did you share too much?
I shared too much. At one point, Michael's like, please stop telling them what you did. They aren't taking it as a warning. They're taking it as a challenge.
Or permission.
Challenge. Well, they just think you're stupid, and that's why it went bad. When they do it, it'll come out completely differently, and I'm like, okay. And then I stopped. But he, honestly, after the third kind of reenactment, my children's reenacting the version that they interpreted me to say, he's like, just stop telling them what you did. Like, I'm like, well, I wanted them to, he's like, no, that's not how this works. Clearly, at this point, that's not how this works.
Yeah, so. There are things that my children do not need to know until the youngest is 30. And that makes 30, 34, and 38. They'll all have their own children at that set time, and then they can be duly impressed.
It's like the parental statute of limitations.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it. I think this should be a thing.
I'm going to write that down. Hashtag parental statute of limitations. That's wonderful.
Did you see the Riverfront Times did a really nice article on Morgane and Charlie?
I saw, I did not read all of it.
On Morgane, actually. My oldest daughter is the bar manager at Olive and Oak.
Oh.
Which means that I wanted to ask you guys, the Ollie Hinkle Heart Foundation has a I Heart Food and Wine. And Emily, if you haven't been to that, they do it at the Ritz-Carlton every year. And it's amazing. I will make sure.
We're on the list.
Yeah. Well, you guys get invited because there was so, like what you were talking about, your wine tasting. Michael and I were going through this, I don't know, maybe 125 bottles to taste.
Fabulous.
And we're trying to organize them and make a plan. Like, how are we going to attack these? And we're just going to drink one. You drink one region and I'll drink one region.
What a wonderful problem.
It was a very tough, but we ended up getting all muddled in the end. We came home with a lot of
How did you stand
pictures.
Up straight?
Well, it's only tastes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
125 tastes.
And there's a ton of food there from the greatest restaurants. It was in October, so it'll be coming up. I Heart Food and Wine.
I'm sure we have a lot of listeners out there that have some influence with I Heart Food and Wine.
Yeah, by the Ollie Hinkle Heart Foundation.
I know they're going to send up some tickets our way because they love us.
Oh my gosh.
We will be happy
to from the best restaurants, amazing wine.
We'll be happy to talk about it and review it and
share some wine highlights
in October.
Yes.
That's my birthday month.
Oh, Oh,
So
perfect
that's-
excuse. And that's
yes.
Morgane's birthday month.
Oh, wonderful.
What day is Morgane's birthday?
The 6th.
Oh, my
early.
brother's is the 7th.
Mm.
I'm the 24th.
Oh, so you are not a Libra.
No, I'm a Scorpio. Mm-hmm.
Danger for Tauruses, which is funny that you guys.
Scorpio.
I'm on the cusp.
Probably like I don't know if that's like danger, like female like friendships.
No, but
you
I
know.
mean, just like they can be a
yeah.
lot of.
Oh, we talk a lot.
I don't know what.
Yeah,
it's
we talk
not,
about-
it's like
Jacqui was
headbutting,
standing there with
headbutting,
her-
or
with
like,
her-
Well, my
pick, pick, pick,
ex-husband was a Taurus.
pick.
Definitely.
Yeah, my ex-husband was a Libra,
But
and
So
then
you're
I
like,
dated
make a
another
damn
Libra,
decision.
and I was like, oh, this is why I'm an ex. I can't date Libras. But I have
I-
lots of Libra girlfriends, and
They're fantastic.
fantastic.
Yeah.
fantastic.
I have a lot of Taurus girlfriends. Same thing. Like I get along with the women wonderfully. And
Not so much. What is Michael?
The greatest. He's a Cancer.
You know, my son William's a Cancer also. Yeah.
Michael's just one of the best humans on the planet. That's
June what?
June 30th. He is like a mid of the year, like smack dab in the middle guy. And honestly, that's just how he lives his life in that really peaceful
Yeah.
middle zone where.
how did you meet?
Well, whatever you can say here on our podcast.
Tell you. Well, so we were talking about me being a military brat.
Yeah.
So, my sophomore year in university, my dad spent 28 years in the Army,
Okay.
and half of that in Germany because he just loved Germany, and that was the time where we had a strong Army presence in Germany. So. I'm like, well, my roommate and I would like to, do something fun this summer. We want to get a Euro pass. Can we use your house as a base? And so he's like, sure, come on over. And he started, my dad, bless his heart, started sending me this was in 1989, right? So I don't want you thinking
No,
like he's texting me pictures. He's sending me Polaroids
Yeah.
of different officers. And I'm like, how awkward. Like, how is he getting Polaroids of these single officers that work for him? That is super strange. Like, I didn't even want to think. And so for the 4 months leading up to my trip there, every 2 weeks I would get like a dating profile of 3 different men from my father. And I'm a sophomore in college, so I'm not even 20 yet. I mean, this is I'll be 20 in May.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so
Wow.
one.
So we're the same age.
Yeah,
That's
so
an
like,
intriguing dating
I
service.
am not looking for a husband at all. But I had been dating an Air Force cadet, and I think that just put my dad on, no Air Force. Here's some good Army. Here's some good Army officers. So.
Right. I was going to ask you because my dad was always,
No flyboys.
well, my dad was Air Force.
Oh.
But he was like, you don't ever want to date an enlisted man because you've been raised an officer's daughter.
Yeah. Well, so my dad was base commander.
Oh, there you go.
So
yeah.
we
so
show
there's some
up,
pressure there.
And, my dad very sweetly has plans for us, and we're going with, his helicopter pilot's going to take us up to the border in
And
the
they were
helicopter.
probably the most gentlemanly military men you
Nicest
ever
people
met.
Ever. And so he has all of these dates arranged, and I'm trying to be polite, but also I just started dating this person, and I'm like, no.
I want to really have a lot of fun, Dad.
So my dad was a Bradley driver, and he's like, well, I want to take you out to the field so you can see what it's like to ride in a Bradley. And I'm like, okay. So we go out to the Bradley, and from the back of the Bradley walks this guy, coated in gray dirt, who had been out there with the Bradley for 2 weeks because they would just go out to the training, and they had to just stay until my dad showed up to do his practice exercise, and they were doing. Takes his helmet off, and he's like this gorgeous man, and I'm like, I look at my roommate, and I told her the night before, I'm gonna have so much fun. I'm not gonna get involved in a serious relationship, monogamy what for the entire summer,
Right.
And honestly, he took his helmet off, and I looked at her, and I'm like, oh, I'm marrying him. And that was Michael.
Get out of town.
And it took me a while because Michael was the only man on base. He was enlisted, but he was also the only man in base who was absolutely not interested in dating my father's daughter at all. Not even. He's like, no. And
I'm not walking down this path.
and he got stuck with us. They went for the debriefing, and Michael had to show us how everything worked. And so I had already decided we were getting married. So he didn't.
Right.
It took
He
him a
didn't
while
know it
to
yet.
know this was happening. So the next time we saw him, I'm like, "Oh, I want to buy you a beer. We want to buy you a beer for taking time and showing us around." He's like, "I have a beer." I'm like, "We'll buy
Wow.
you your next one." He's like, "One's my limit." Like he was like, not playing.
I wonder what kind of message your dad sent out before my daughter is coming to visit, and I will murder or have you disposed of anybody.
Well, the first
blah,
night
blah,
he walked
blah.
me home. My dad's a big sportsman too. So the first night, Michael finally get him to walk me home to my dad's, and my dad's like, "Get off the front porch," And so he's like, "Oh, no, I have to enter." So, and then he's like, he walks in, and my dad, thinking he's hilarious, just like your dad thinks he's so funny, says something like, "All of these are Jacqui's ex-boy," or like he's looking at all he's looking at all of the like deer and antelope that play on my dad's wall. And then he says, "All of Jackie's ex-boyfriends are upstairs." And I'm like, "Oh my God, Dad, did you really?"
Like mounted.
Yeah, mounted.
Yeah,
yes.
their faces are mounted on the walls. Yeah.
But fast forward, Michael became my dad's driver when he asked my dad if he could come back for leave, because Michael had to ask permission for leave to come back and ask me to marry him. Like he didn't. He's like, and my dad's like, "Don't marry her. Like, what are you thinking?" It's like, it'll be the biggest mistake you make. No, he's like, "I almost want to deny your leave if that's what you're thinking." I'm like,
Wow.
"Shut up, Dad."
Wow.
So what was the day that it finally changed from him like going, "Nope, I don't need a beer"?
It took me 2 weeks.
That's a lot of commitment, Jacqui.
It's impossible.
You're in Europe, and you committed to an American boy for 2 weeks.
Weeks of hard effort, like lunchtime
Man.
every day, accidentally showing up where he was. I'm telling you,
Man.
I had things to do like sunbathing and drinking beer, and
Yeah.
it was hard.
I know.
It was worth it though. That was a minute ago, 89. That was 30 years ago, and we're still together. So clearly, it was worth a 2-week investment. Good ROI.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh my
Well, I was in
gosh.
Europe in 1990, so I actually think it's nice that you paved the way. And you settled on an American boy, and you didn't leave a bunch of broken, European hearts behind you. You left that for me.
You damaged all the Europeans.
I did that.
That was kind of you.
I did that. Yeah. So that was good. That's how we work in tandem.
Well, speaking of good ROI, I think that we have definitely had some great ROI tonight.
Lots
the
of great
wine has
conversation.
been wonderful.
Yeah.
The conversation's been awesome. What a
Fantastic.
wonderful way to celebrate our final show of the season.
Of season 1.
Yes.
We'll be back next week with season 2.
I know.
Somehow,
Sure.
but
I know.
somehow it'll feel different. Somehow it will.
Older, wiser, more
Older, wiser.
experienced.
Yeah, like I
Right.
guess our price point will go up $1 because it'll be in season 2.
Well, actually, so the truth beyond the seasons, or about the seasons, is that everybody, everyone that has been listening to our show wants to meet the guests of our first season. So we thought it would be smart to break it up so that way that
Segmented.
we could have get-togethers where people could meet all of our amazing guests. And I hope, Jacqui, that you can join us when we have our first meet and
That would
greet.
be amazing.
We would like all of our guests to dress in their episode number, like thing 1, thing 2.
So I'm 22, 25.
25. You'll just 25.
Just like my age.
Just like your age. Yeah. So that that way it'll be easy for our listeners to find us. But thank you so much for coming in on the clutch and helping us out here on tonight's show.
Thank you for the wine.
Oh.
Yes, thank you,
Fantastic.
Jason, and the wine merchant for recommending this fabulous bottle of Soul. All of our listeners out there, thank you so much for sticking with us, listening to our show, giving us feedback, sharing it, telling your friends. We've had a really great season 1. We have got some phenomenal guests lined up already. Season 2, we're looking forward to it. We love being in your cars, in your house, in your earbuds, all those places.
Right.
We really appreciate your support, and follow us on all our socials. Send us emails, call our comment line.
Yeah.
Emily, what is that number?
That number is 812-727 0794. We love drinking wine with you and hearing your stories, so please share with us.
Continue on. All right, cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
Good night.
Good night.